In 1984, a Baltimore-located Six Flags theme park hosted an unveiling of what would be regarded to today as the first-ever commercial 4D film, the Sensorium. The elaborate device that allowed the 4D film fruition, the Sensorama, or better known as the Experience Theater dubbed by the device's creator, Morton Heelig. It consisted of fans, surround sound speakers, odor creators, a moving chair, and the ability to produce stereoscopic 3D images. Although the Experience Theater does still indeed function, it is of no longer use to the public, yet its trailblazing aspect will forever have paved the way in regards to multimedia as the predecessor of virtual reality. Radios, TVs, newspapers, motion rides, good-smelling candles, etc. are all sensory-provoking innovations that have existed in their own respective forms for a long period of time. The Sensorama would encompass the likenesses of all these things to become the first-ever multi-sensory device intended to create a fictional world for the viewer to immerse themselves into. And being that the actual definition of modern-day VR is essentially a computer-generated technology that enables the person to embark on adventures and explore digitally created environments by using the human body's senses, we can start to see the Sensorama and VR are trying to achieve the very same things. So what exactly did the Sensorama give birth to? VR is experienced through a much smaller device worn as a headset, covering the eyes with two small lenses and held into place by some form of strap for stability. The two lenses make images appear as if there is an actual distance between your eyes and what you're looking at, creating the effect of actually being somewhere you're physically not. Depending on market, sometimes different virtual realities will come with Wii-like motion controllers and a runnable treadmill-esque contraption to further the experience of being somewhere you are not. With the leaps and bounds VR has made in the recent past, things that were once only dreamt of can now be more closely experienced than ever before. Being able to view things like the Eiffel Tower as if you were actually there is a pretty special ability to have and has a very positive effect on society, such as things like outlooks on life and happiness. Among other societal effects, VR is also vastly popular in gaming markets, and this, perhaps, is where you will most commonly see the technology used, although its use is on the high rise for vocational practices. Google, Samsung, and Sony are just a few of the biggest businesses in support of virtual reality, as they have invested a great deal of money into the market, showing a growing hope for the future of this technology. There are many uses and practices in which VR is productive for society. Of course, for everything that has positives, in most cases negatives are embraced in the baggage as well. An example of a positive aspect would be a situation where a new driver is fearful of driving because they think they might get into an accident due to their lack of experience, but the driver in training can now use a simulator via VR and feel still secure, still learn, and most importantly is safer than would be in the real life. In the same aspect, a pilot can practice highly skilled emergency landings in a digitally interactive environment so he can be prepared for a situation he may have never been in or be able to replicate due to the limitations of reality. Building an architecture that you pass every single day may very well be the lasting result from the progressive VR system too. The digital playground allows engineers to make a realistic immersive model of buildings, leading to less complications in the process of construction and communications in the real world. As mentioned earlier before though, virtual reality has its fair share of setbacks engraved into it for the time being. For one, after long exposure to the device, a disease known as myopia can begin to develop in the eyes of the viewer, which causes the user to become nearsighted. Not only can it do that, but it can also cause the user to feel dizzy and lightheaded, typically a motion sickness, similar to the same reason why people get sick on sea. The same way your eyes get really fatigued from reading a book on the road for an extended amount of time from the constant need of focus is the very same way that viewing the images projected in a VR headset can strain the eyes, leaving them feeling very strained as well. Users susceptible to headaches tend to get headaches more frequently when using the VR systems. These limitations on the human body and mind make getting useful time out of the device more frustrating and complicated, as experts in the field have suggested a 10 to 15 minute break for every 30 minutes of use. The uses of VR are limitless, and with new generations relying on the newest form of technology to learn, entertain, confide in, etc., it is important to utilize its capacity to help make cultural and societal evils more pure. Take this for instance. Piotr Loj, founder of the Virtual Dream Project, who has said VR is one of the most crucial issues of social development in our time as it touches every crisis of the modern world. Escapism, alter ego, depression, antisocial behavior, porn addiction, gaming addiction, suicide and suicide prevention, a lack of empathy for others and dehumanization of society. In all these cases, VR has great impact potential. So the point that is trying to be made here is how increasingly involved VR has become in all aspects of life, not just video games, work, school, sports, traveling, but all of life. There is a growing fear that as virtual worlds and digital environments grow increasingly more realistic and newly added features continuously are being updated, then humans may become so fascinated with their own realities they've built for themselves rather than the real reality set before them, which can be random and chaotic. Bruce Willis stars in a movie named Surrogates, where people would rather have their consciousnesses uploaded into a more appealing body rather than their natural bodies that in this movie plays on the same type of fear as these fears growing around virtual reality. At the end of the day, with great power comes great responsibility, and the more amazing technology becomes, the more difficult the problems become that surround it. For ages, though, humans have been able to adapt and use technology for the greater good, and there's no reason to believe what was unveiled in that Six Flags theme park won't change more lives for the better 10, 50, even 100 years from now. If only Morton Helig could see the reality he helped create.